these minerals. So in ecology, you've got a primary producer. Primary producer would be like a plant. So, you know, with money, do you want to be consuming or do you want to be investing or producing? Production. Production for a consumer. Interesting. So we've got a primary producer. So what happens? Then we have consumers. This is the food chain, right? One way to look at the food chain. I won't bore you with carbon cycles and Krebs cycles yet. I just want to build, complexity is built out of layers of simplicity. So I'm hoping you don't have any misunderstoods. This may not be the most exciting lecture, but as long as you understand it, okay? So you've got a primary consumer, and you've got a secondary consumer. What would be a primary consumer? Well, could be a herbivore, something that eats on the plants. What would be a secondary consumer? Might be like an animal. Humans are usually both, herbivore and carnivore, meat and plant. What would be a tertiary consumer? Have you ever seen the movie where the pterodactyl comes, the bird in the old Jurassic Park type movies, and it decays everything back to the earth, like bacteria and fungus and the cycle of fermentation that you've probably seen going around the internet at the moment? So that's primary consumers and secondary consumers. Let's talk a little bit about TCM and Ayurveda. There was four Vedic books, 4 Vedic scriptures. I had to read them word for word when I did my study. I won't bore you with it now. I'm trying to keep very simple language. TCM, Mao Zedong. It's running a PowerPoint. He was a very famed leader of China, tried to bring China up and out of poverty. He tried to synthesize all the materials, TCM, acupuncture, herbalism, into a system that could be exploited. Ayurveda is a little bit different. Ayurveda would be something in the clinic. Panchakarma, that's misunderstood, but we'll define it. 5 rites, 5 actions, detox, etc., etc. Okay, do you understand? Now, in Western medicine, you've got diagnosis and treatment. In natural medicine, they don't use those words as much. You have things like assess, intervene, not words you really commonly hear at all in natural medicine. So what are some things that people use to work out? Well, you've got pulse assessing. Well, in Western medicine, you've got things like blood pressure, CAT scans, which are electromagnetic field, X-rays, which is a form of radiation, the light spectrum. If I could get the internet and the whiteboard here, that'd be easy for me, which I'll do next time. But one of the ways you intervene in natural medicine is herbs. You've also got homeopathy, which is talk about reductionist, is very reductionist. Some people even classify it under energy medicine. So if we were to focus on herbalism from these 3 great traditions, TCM, let me tell you, have you noticed that BBLs are huge lately? Fat trans fill? I will just add, I don't know if it's on the camera or not, South American. What do you think the diet was from this South American look that's popular around the world? Well, you had a lot of roots. What did you have? A lot of carbohydrates. You had a lot of plant steroids. What do plant steroids do? What do they do? I'll tell you where to put fat. So where does estrogen normally go? Where does testosterone normally go? So they go to different parts of the body. Now, if you're having a lot of sugar, it was converted into fats, or we'll say carb or hydrate, carb for short, sugar, fat, liver, glucose, glycogen, or sugar becomes glucose, the liver. So, what have we got here? We've got the South American approach where you've had a lot of carbohydrates and sugar and a lot of steroids in the diet. You compare that with TCM, they have a lot of roots. Less elimination. Roots I sometimes think of as being somewhat building. I think of that. This is a will idiom. What do we have in the Western diet? Do we have a lot of roots? Well, we don't boil peony or dong quai. If you're Western, did your parents ever do that for you? I know mine didn't. Licorice. Well, mine were herbals, it's different, but you understand my point. And then in Ayurveda, you often have large combination formulas. So you've got large combination formulas. So there you go, that's a little bit of an introduction. So the herbs are different in different parts of the world. But in the West, just remember the roots have all the energy, the stem, so often building things like horsetail, calcium and silica. You've got leaves, you've got flowers which came last. And then the more that plant has had to endure, you go back to a herb I like horsetail, which was there from the time of the dinosaurs. I will add, there's also some great traditions in Arabia and Persia. All through the Middle East. I won't bring up the map again, but don't think just because people didn't have internet that the world wasn't connected. The world was very connected back in the day. Trade routes, you've probably heard of the Silk Roads. There was a somewhat, there's a website named after that, if you remember. So Silk Roads were the trade routes. And the caravans used to go along the trade routes. If I can draw an animal. So herbs would be imported and exported. The king of spices in the old world was black pepper. Came from India. So the Indians used a few types of pepper. They also used long pepper. The second most commonly used formula in Ayurveda is called trekatu. Trekatu, 3 spices. And it had ginger. It talks about ginger as being a digestive. Black pepper is picked unripe. If it ripens, it becomes white. White pepper. I prefer black pepper to long pepper. I've used both. I find long pepper slightly not as strong. So anyway, that's a bit of an introduction. So you've learned a little bit about traditional Chinese medicine. It's grouped by the Chinese leader, Mao Zedong. You've learned about Ayurveda over thousands of years, Science of Life in the 4 books. You've learned a little bit about Western herbalism, touched on a little bit where the Native Americans taught the original settlers in the US. They smoked marijuana, damiana, tobacco and wild lettuce as an example where we got some of these habits from. So that's a little bit of a start as to herbs in different parts of the world, understanding the chemical compounds that come from the soil. And we must remember plants are plants and we're still building out of the same minerals.